everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it's been a very long time since you've heard my voice, seen a video from me, and I am so sorry. There has been so much that has changed in the past 6, 7, 8 months. I don't even know. It's been since March, I think, since my last video. I thought a way to come back and something that's a little bit low pressure but also allows me to let you guys know what's been going on would be a packing orders with me while I do a Q&A to kind of talk about what's been going on. So I guess if you're new here or you just stumbled upon this video based on the title, hi, my name is Jada. I'm the artist here on this channel, and I make art in my little studio, and sometimes I go to the ceramic studio and make art there too. I think it would be best to start off with some simple questions. So hi, if you're new here, my name is Jada. I am an artist. I am 27 and I live in Virginia for now. And the reason why I say for now is because my spouse is in the military, so we tend to move around a lot. And that's part of the reason why I was gone for such a long time. We did end up moving, well, he ended up moving to Washington while I stayed here for about 6 to 7 months working on my career. I didn't quite work out the way that we hoped, so I am planning on moving back to Washington. I say back to Washington because I only lived there for a couple months before we moved to Virginia, but I am originally from Connecticut. So yeah, been a little bit all over, but not really all over. And I'm excited for the new journey, moving to Washington again and being able to experience it differently than I did before, in a longer time period than I did before. But I am really nervous to kind of get out of my comfort zone and start over in a way. Finally got comfortable here and found a community of artists and animal lovers that I wanted to be a part of so bad. And now that I am faced with the decision to move, it was really difficult 6 months ago to decide whether I was going to stay or whether I was going to move to Washington. Now that I have decided I'm going to move to Washington, it's been very difficult to say goodbye and really come to terms with the fact that I have 3 cats and I have a rabbit, and we all need to find a way to move to Washington from Virginia. So that's a different kind of challenge that I'm not used to and I'm a little worried about. So that's a longer story of why I've been gone for so long, but another part of it is also I haven't been very creative during that time of the move. It took me a while to get back to the ceramic studio, and I still haven't even sat down to start a painting yet. And it's been almost a full year since I've made a painting. So I have been not feeling very creative. I've been pretty stressed and I've been feeling pretty burnt out and really sad. There's been periods of time where I just couldn't stop crying, and I realized that I needed to make a change and I needed to focus on what is motivating me to do the things that I want to do and why do I want to do them. So I've been thinking a lot about my YouTube channel, my creative career, my professional career, and what I want to put out in the world. And it's definitely been difficult. Sometimes I do get FOMO when I see other people on certain paths, and I'm like, man, I wish I could be on that path right now and have it all figured out. But the reality is that none of us really have it all figured out. It's definitely been difficult for me to be okay with where I am right now in my life. Now getting into some of the questions that I got on my community post. If you are interested in submitting some questions for a future Q&A, you can find that community post and write down a comment and I will answer that question in another video. So one comment I did get was that Junie was so cute, and thank you so much. Junie is a new, I think you can hear her crying right now. She found a toy. She is the newest cat member of the family, and she is very cute. Thank you so much for saying so. The question was, what are my experiences with other art media? So my experience with other art media started with when I was in high school. I did a ceramics class, and I also took different drawing classes, and then I did take one painting class. And in my painting class, we only used acrylic paint. So for the longest time, I've only ever used acrylic. Then I slowly got into art markers. I got into a little bit of watercolor, transitioned to gouache and acrylic gouache, and now I am very comfortable with using gouache and watercolors. Those are my main two media that I have stuck with and I want to stick with because I want to get better at using them. So I've been a little bit all over the place with my art media, but I think I finally found what I love using the most. The second question I got is, how long were you an artist? Since I can remember, I feel like I've always been an artist. I always drew random abstract drawings. I used to copy the drawings in like manga online. I used to do all kinds of things, and I also used to write too. A little, I guess for me is a little less popular because I don't use it anymore, but I used to write on Wattpad way back in the day, probably in like 2000, I don't even know, 18, maybe even 2016. I don't know. It was such a long time ago. I no longer have stories up on there, but it's been a minute. I always loved writing, and I felt I was always encouraged to be a creative kid, but I wanted to have a career in the sciences because science is so cool to me. I love animals. I like the medical aspect of science. So when I finished high school, I went into college. I did not take any art classes in college. I mostly focused on my studies and then did art at home. I went to school for wildlife conservation, natural resources, and I don't typically use my degree in the career field that I was in before. I worked at a animal shelter before, and it was kind of in the in-between. Like, I got to do my art, but I also got to work with animals, and it just felt really ideal. It's just circumstances change, structures change, and now it's just time for me to move on and find something new. Maybe even seasonal work, working with wildlife, working with natural resources. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot too. The next question was, what are my inspirations? I feel like I'm very much inspired by nature, animals, movement, and color. I really love playing with colors. There are some artists that I'm very inspired by, like Audra. I'm very inspired by Victoria. I really love how she uses watercolors. I really love how Audra has like this flow to her artwork, and I really like how she used gouache. There's so many artists out there that I am very inspired by. Watercolor artists, gouache artists, ceramic artists, so many that I'm having a hard time listing. Even oil painters, I'm very inspired by. Of course, you can always check out my Instagram too, because I follow a lot of them on Instagram. But this is mostly just like a short list of artists that I really am inspired by, but it's not the only list. I feel like the artists that I get inspired by are the ones that I follow on Instagram or that I follow on YouTube too. The next question is, favorite movie of this year? That's really hard. I haven't been to the movies in a while. The most recent movie that I watched on TV was The Idea of You. And I know, it's really silly, and I don't know. I felt like it was going to be really silly, like rom-com romance kind of thing. But I love Anne Hathaway, so I just gave it a chance. And it actually made me cry at the end. I was just like, oh, like getting teared up and everything. I really like Aliens Romulus, the newest one that came out. I thought that one was really cool, and I really would love to do like a commentary, like art thing with that movie. I watched Little Women recently too, that one's sticking out to me a lot because it also made me cry and it was very emotional, and I really like that movie too. Next question was, what motivates you to create? I feel like sometimes I have this spark of like manic, like I have this idea in my head. It's really hard for me to translate it onto paper, especially when it's something that I want to do like with ceramics, because it's hard for me to translate. It's hard for me to translate 2D drawing into a 3D object. So I keep the idea in my head for the most part, and I write like small little pencil notes or whatever on what I want to do, but mostly the idea sticks in my head until I'm able to actually physically do that. I find the same thing happens with paintings, but I've been letting myself kind of sketch out and like kind of loosen up a little bit on the ideas that I want to turn into larger paintings more than I used to. But most of the time I am motivated just by like, I don't know, there's just energy inside of me that just wants to do something. Another question is, how do you develop your art skills? So my art skills have been developing for a very long time, and sometimes I feel like it hasn't been developing fast enough or long enough for me, in my opinion. Sometimes I feel like for the, I don't know, almost 8 years, I've been teaching myself how to draw using like YouTube videos, draw and paint using YouTube videos, practicing, putting my stuff out there on the internet. I feel like I should be at a higher stage, but I realized that I'm not an artist that paints every day. I don't draw every day, and so maybe that's a factor that goes into why I'm not where I want to be. But I feel like I have skills that I know I want to practice, that I just need to sit down one day or make a plan to practice those skills now that things have changed for me. Last question I'm going to answer is, what are your ultimate career goals? My ultimate career goal is to have like a hobby farm or like a mini farm with my animals that I take care of, invite people to be there, have it be like a destination farm where people can come and be creative, spend time with animals, be in a peaceful environment, away from kind of all the stressors of just being an adult in this world. I know it sounds really kind of silly, but I feel a lot of pressure and stress just being an adult in this world. And I know I can't be the only one. So I just kind of want to make a pocket of just find some peace in this very busy world, preserve some of the natural beauty that we have. That's just kind of something I've been thinking a lot about too, is what do I ultimately see myself, and where I would love to see myself is having that small hobby farm, being creative and sharing that creativity with many more creative, loving people. Anyway, that was very sappy. And I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. If you have any more questions, you can leave in the comments of this video. You can head over to the community tab or send me a message on Instagram. I will see you all very, very soon, I promise. I love you. Bye. Take care.